Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and not to alarm anyone, but Flameblast Totems, aka Pizza Sticks, may actually be kinda back. I have historically never actually played this type of thing. I played Flameblast plenty of times in the past when it was kind of just a bit more flexible as to what you can do with it, but I never got on the totem meta. That said, looking at the patch notes and seeing Flameblast of Celerity get some pretty hefty buffs, I immediately thought that looks like it could be pretty viable in the current sort of totem environment. I logged in immediately and tried out Flameblast on a character that I had just laying around on Settlers League, and it seemed like a really cool playstyle, so I decided to give it a test as a level starting run. Just on Settlers with a Flameblast of Celerity. So imagine you bought one at around level 35 because someone else did lab and didn't want this shit, or imagine you ran a few labs and got lucky. Something like that. Far from impossible because the rest of the run is wearing completely default nothing gear, and I also had to show off this Flameblast MTX that you probably don't want to be buying if you're going to do something like a totem setup, because it absolutely does not work very well with the overlapping ground, which just kind of bugs out. In any case, I decided to give it a full shot, starting leveling as normal rolling magma into like well, actually, yeah, I was just rolling magma into Flameblast at level 33. We got our swag on after feeling like we were pretty powerful. And then, yeah, finished lab, got Hierophant, and then started Flameblast toteming ever since. I didn't upgrade any of my gear since level 10, and I also didn't change like any sockets or anything. It was just a 4-link, and that was pretty much all there was to it. And in the end, it was a very comfortable campaign run. We are talking a Flameblast that is pre-buff, so there's still a good amount of power to be gained during the new patch, and this just seemed like a really strong starter considering I've got absolutely nothing going on my gear. I think the only damage stat I had is +1 on one of my wands, and then like 10 cast speed maybe. So if you're actually upgrading your character, if you're going to start this type of thing on day one, if you're upgrading your character as you go, if you're doing league mechanic and getting proper set up, I think it should be an incredibly cruisy first campaign run, and then probably a nice early start into maps. I haven't planned out too much beyond what is happening here on screen. I'll most likely do at least a POB for a more advanced starter setup, as in something that probably has like a whole divine worth of value to it, something like that, and then we'll go from there. Because maybe I'll start this thing off. It's pretty damn tempting. It's an incredibly easy play style for streaming. So you just run around and fucking right click everywhere and it takes care of the rest because it has like, homing technology since it's totems. And on top of that, it's I'd say this type of a playstyle is one of the best suited to new content that you are unaware of what is happening with that new content. You don't know what the bosses are going to be doing. You don't know what you're going to be facing. And totem playstyles like this are some of the friendliest to try and tackle that stuff because you are, for the most part, just focusing on your own movement and avoiding things while not being anywhere near an enemy, not really caring about where you're casting, what you're doing. So it's a very defensive playstyle if you want to make it one. The, of course, downside is the playstyle for mapping and stuff is just running around, right-clicking, and constantly like putting down totems before the fact, and it's not something everyone particularly likes, but once it's powerful enough, it feels kind of justified, and you don't really hate doing it too much. It's still not going to be for everyone though, so fair warning on that one. But this was a crowd favorite for many years, quite a long time ago. Not too sure why it really fell out of favor. I think it just Flameblast took a few nerfs here or there, and then eventually it just wasn't that good anymore. But I doubt anyone's really looked at it too closely in recent times, and the buff to Flameblast of Celerity looks like it means it could be pretty damn legit. So this is a test run up to like Act 7, and it was an absolute face roll. Let me go ahead and show you what the character was. So here we are, the character where I stopped was level 62, Pizza Reborn, with absolutely basic stats. We're talking still like 2k life, 1k mana. It's pretty comfortable at this stage, and that is, like I said, with absolutely zero gear. So all my gear basically is what I slapped onto it at level 10. And when I do these test runs, I like to make sure I'm pretty much simulating the worst possible case scenario for a character. So I just, put on some stuff that I can to set up an established baseline, and then pretty much just stop looking at upgrades and things on the ground. So this is what you can expect if you've basically almost played a ruthless run of this sort of thing. We have 10 movement speed there and a little bit of life, and then like I said, pretty much my only real damage stat is +1 to fire skills on a wand. But ideally, in the end, once you're gearing up, you do want +1 to fire skills on both your weapons and or weapon plus shield or staff or whatever you're going to do. You do like having additional damage to spells, especially early on in the game, and then increase fire damage. Eventually you're going to want crit multi, cast speed, lots of the good stuff. But this is a complete simulation of pretty much nothing, and Flameblast of Celerity, while it's kind of not even fully buffed up yet. With the current quality, it should, I think, have the same area that it's going to have. But then once you quality it up with the new buffed version, it'll have even more spell damage per stage, and I think less cast time as well, from memory. Anyway, basically, yeah, the setup here is just Flame Blast attached to multi-totem, spell totem, and combustion. Even though I'm currently non-crit, and we have this thing over here, combustion is just helping us like get the minus fire onto the enemies, and also just a bit of extra fire damage. That's currently the setup anyway. So if you're kind of like newer to this sort of situation, Templars are pretty easy to start off with for the first 30 levels at the very least, because you pick up Rolling Magma at level 1, attach pretty much anything to it, Arcane Surge, whatever, combustion, and then you have lots of good little damage nodes in the very first few areas. Initially I started pathing towards being ready for Ancestral Bond, but once I got here, I then spec'd this 100 damage node. This starts to carry you early on as well, and then I only really actually went totems and was gonna go totems at around level 30 once you get your first lab, and that's pretty much when it's starting to become worth pressing several totems. At that point, I did put Flame Blast attached to totems and then went from there. If you can't early on get this Flame Blast because you can't afford it, it's not up for trade, or it's not, you haven't been getting lucky on labs, you can use the regular Flame Blast, but be warned, it's a much slower playstyle because it has to get up to 10 stages before it explodes, but it does actually work. Like, it still kind of works well enough, and maybe you can get away with it. But basically, the only real requirement for the gear, for the setup to begin with, is going to be the alt quality Flame Blast. And then from there, you just make lots of upgrades towards your character. We get to Elemental Overload pretty much as early as we can, and then start trying to have a little bit of crit so that it starts going off quite more comfortably. This is just for leveling though. The endgame version absolutely should be crit. Most likely. Like, I don't know, I don't typically POB these things out, but Elemental Overload does get outscaled pretty hard by crit. Since it's Hierophant, I imagine we're also going to be going into the power charges and then buffing Arcane Surge. And now Arcane Surge is going to be even more buffed at the end of the new patch, because it gets another 10 cast speed. So then this will be even more effective. You get much more cast speed from this situation. But that is the bare bones of the tree, and that is the bare bones of the gear. The only other thing I'm really doing is Frostblink attached to Arcane Surge at the moment. I'm also running a Flammability for self-cast. I'm running an Anger and a Zealotry, and you can start doing that together once you get these nodes here, and quite likely this as well. But early on, we are just rolling magma. We are using Flame Wall, and I think I was also running Herald of Thunder for a bit of extra damage, but that's pretty much it. You're just running around rolling magma-ing, and it should be pretty comfortable. The quick simulation that I did over here of just a better passive tree in the end, I'm imagining we're going to try and cap spell block, go down here, go over here, hit over here, and it's doable enough to cap spell block without too much work. It's just going to be a bit of a min-max on the gear as well, and then otherwise the damage and life is mostly set up, and we might even do a bit of extra actual block. But aside from that, you might also want to go more of a hybrid armor energy shield style thing. If you do this, and then take this node over here and then go heavy on your chest armor, then you get a lot of extra armor and energy shield, and you can be a bit of a hybrid build that way for defensiveness, because it is a very defensive playstyle, and it's up to you to kind of just run around and avoid things. But you can build a bit thicker this way with some extra block, and also you do have the endurance charges by default from this over here. If you want, you can also spec an extra endurance charge there and then put min endurance on your gear and then run around with 5 endurance charges at all times. But the idea should be that we get power charges there, a power charge there, and probably anoint a power charge there as well, and maybe even run min power charges across our gear for figuring that out too. But the gear I haven't done anything with, and I haven't really simulated too much. Just, you know, in the end, you're probably going to want +1 totem as a shield with +1 fire if you can, because you're going to be rolling through harvest like that. But I haven't actually attached any of the gear. Haven't done a proper sort of map simulated starter. I'll probably attach that either in the future video for starters, which I'll do hopefully by the end of the week, so a few starter builds and then this one included, or I'll attach a POB that's going to be in the comments of this one or in the description of this one, which should be a bit more fleshed out. So if you're looking forward to that, then yeah, I'll try and get one of those done, maybe even by the end of the day for that. Otherwise, I'll just attach the current POB there. And yeah, I think you know, Flameblast Totems, it looks like it's a pretty good build at the moment. So if you've been looking forward to one of those, I think now's the time to get into it. If you, for some reason, want to do this MTX setup as well, it is the Twitch Drops free hat that you can, if you don't know, pick 1 or 2. The tier 2 is the default one that's kind of green. If you pick the red one, you can start out a look with that, and then we've got Demonic, full Demonic set, running Demon Wings, glowing red eyes, and Demonic Ghoul character effect. Without all that, you are of course going to look like a scuffed as fuck Templar. So if you've got no skins whatsoever and you want to go a Templar start, be warned, this is what you're in for. And yeah, it's just, you know, PoE1 things. It is what it is for the time being, but yeah, it's got its own appeal as well, right? Just man versus world looking like that. So there it is, pizza sticks and Flameblast Totems. Just a little bit of a taste because I haven't got a full thing of it, but hopefully some thought-flowing discussion around it. So thank you very much for watching, and see you guys next time.